choice in about today. And I'm just glad to go with you. I appreciate your passion. And I had 5 or 6 that showed interest. But none was great that you've exhibited. And I just look back over our history, you've written out things before on annexation and other things. And I just, that matters. And I feel you keep me abreast and apprised, and you shoot you straight as to, some of the changes that need to take place, which is what I really need. And so I appreciate your willingness to serve. Sound like one. Locked in, and I look forward to work. Yes, so Joe, you told T to throw your signs away? Are you out of your mind? You didn't get permission to do that. You should have consulted me first before you make before you make a decision of that magnitude, right? You should have consulted me.
So I'll have to leave out if they contact me, Mary, and I'll have to finish the meeting off.
Didn't we come down here together? So wouldn't it make sense that we would leave at the same time? I'm just shocked that you say, we don't do this to me. Just keep the signs to the car. So come to the car. We got you to the door for. He ain't running. Well, so that's it. This is it.
So is it muted, Johnny?
73046. Okay,
You ready?
yep.
Okay. Uh, you, the Zoom.
I thought I did.
to indicate the end of 2 minutes. It's also indicative of 60 seconds to wrap up and summarize any of your presentation. The second bell indicates that all of your time has expired. When addressing the council, there's to be no personal address to any individual council member. All of your statements ought to be made to myself as I serve as chair. And if there's any council member who wishes to be recognized, they'll have that opportunity. To maintain decorum, there will be no undue applause and/or public outcry allowed. Those are the rules for this particular meeting, and we're appreciative of your interest in our municipal government.
Approval of minutes of the meetings of August 17th and 25th.
So moved.
Second.
Properly moved in second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor? Opposed?
Communications from the mayor.
Yes, good morning.
Morning.
Certainly good to see everyone here this morning. I know that many of you are like me and other citizens counting our blessings for not taking a direct hit from Hurricane Ida. And we know those friends of ours and those that we don't even know in Louisiana and Mississippi that have taken the brunt of that, the blow of the hurricane, need our ongoing prayers and support. I think that we can anticipate in the coming weeks that we will continue to have people that have been displaced from the damage in South Louisiana, Mississippi, to actually be in Mobile. And I hope that we will embrace them like we would hope to be embraced by them if we were in the same circumstance. So far as we know at this point in time, there have been no damage to any city properties. Yesterday, as we were doing an assessment, we found out that 24 hours prior to probably 8 o'clock yesterday morning, we only had 2 downed trees reported, which is an amazing situation. And there were maybe 1,000 people in the city that were without power. That kind of fluctuated during the course of the day as some power got turned on, others lost power. But all in all, I think last night, the last report I had was maybe 100 people that didn't have power as we went to sleep. Mobile is the home for government for the state of Alabama's Alabama Task Force 1, which by and large, by being stationed here, a lot of the members of that Task Force 1, which is an urban rescue, a search and rescue task force, they're standing by should Governor Ivey choose to deploy them. And so if that's the case, we'll be glad to send them on the way to do the things that they're specifically trained to do. One of the hopes that I have is that we, as the leadership of the city government, that we would look at, and not just the city government leaders, but others, look at New Orleans and what happened to Katrina 16 years ago. It was the massive flooding that took place, and the federal government subsequently spent $16 million.
14.
$16 billion fortifying the levee system. Well, all the reports that we received is that the levee system that was worked on, performed exactly as designed. But what didn't happen during Katrina was they didn't have the failure of the power supply coming into the city. And that did happen this time. And so whether it's 21 days as anticipated or whatever the time frame is that they're going to be without power, it's going to really be a struggle for them. And as they had the backup generators for the dike system, but they didn't have backup generators, for the sewage pumps and so forth. My point is, in saying that, is that we need to look at everything that we're doing in the city of Mobile, because without electricity, eventually things just don't work. And I think that we're going to see that in spades when it comes to what's going on in Louisiana. So my hope is that not just in this next week, not in the next month, but in everything that we do as we go forward, and you think about resiliency, it's going to be that, then to me, that's the ability to bounce back. in the face of adversity like a natural disaster. So hopefully we will learn some lessons and do a better job so that should we be, and myself, happening to us what happened to them, that we will be better prepared and be able to bounce back in a quicker fashion. Just as a note, yesterday our trash crews did not pick up trash, but my understanding is that they'll start on yesterday's routes today, and they will just try to catch up over the period of this week, and our hope is that they'll be able to do that. The last thing I have is that I have a proclamation to read for the United Way, and I would ask that Jill Chenoweth, Justin Bixler, Mary Claire Haygood, and Trista Stout-Walker, please just approach the podium, if you would. I'll read the proclamation, Jill, and I'll come present it to you, and then you'll have an opportunity for you to make remarks or any of your team, okay? Proclamation reads, whereas United Way of Southwest Alabama lifts communities higher by partnering with 48 local nonprofits to address community issues collectively in Choctaw, Clark, Mobile, and Washington counties. And whereas United Way of Southwest Alabama brings together the power of volunteers, advocates, donors, nonprofits, businesses, counties, and government agencies across the region to provide tremendous opportunities for more than 500,000 local people each year. And whereas it is fitting and proper to thank and recognize the people, organizations, partnerships, agencies, and workplaces that work tirelessly, passionately, and collectively with the United Way of Southwest Alabama to help make change happen here in Southwest Alabama. Now, therefore, I, William S. Stimson, the 108th Mayor of the City of Mobile, do hereby formally recognize September 1st, tomorrow, as United Way Day in the City of Mobile. Congratulations. Congratulations. Appreciate all you do.
Thank you, Mayor Stimson, and to the City Council. For 96 years, the United Way of Southwest Alabama has worked with the City of Mobile to help the citizens in their times of need. We hope to continue that tradition for another 96 years. Thank you all for your service, for your support. We greatly appreciate your acknowledging tomorrow as our day and we kick off our annual campaign. And thank you to the city employees for also helping us all these years. Thank you all so much. They abandoned me.
That concludes my remarks, Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
Adoption of the agenda.
Second.
Properly moved and second, any discussion? Not all in favor? Opposed?
Public hearings. Today is a public hearing to rezone property located at 6636, 6638, 6640, 6666, 6680, and 6692 O'Shell Road from R1 to R3.
Is there anyone here that would like to speak or participate in this particular public hearing? Or not?
Excuse me. I just want to lay out some information on this as your planning commission member. When this came forward, there were questions posed by surrounding interests, and it was slowed down for more information. I hope that you've read your packets, and I know that it's in District 7, and I've been in touch with Ms. Gregory about the project. It's a PUD and a rezoning from R1 to R3 for what they're calling student housing. I know that, and I was going to send this to all of my colleagues because I know we're not going to vote on this today, but wanted to send something about the University of Alabama because they're into their second phase of having a moratorium on student housing because of the stress that it puts on city resources, the changes it creates in established areas. And this project, I was hoping somebody from the development might be present. Oh, great. I have some questions, if you don't mind, just so my colleagues can also learn about this development. Thank you so much. Can you tell us how many bedrooms this development will have?
Yes, it'll have 186 total bedrooms.
Okay. And your parking lot ratio numbers?
It's, we have 5% overage.
Yeah, I think you're at 206, if I'm not mistaken, which is 205 would have been exactly making the minimum standards of the
And
development.
we have 206 parking spots.
Right, exactly. 205, it would be required. The other thing is, can you tell us about your green space and the amenities on this?
Yeah, the amenities will have a clubhouse, it will have a pool, there will be a pavilion out by the pool. Obviously landscaping throughout the project all along Old Shell, but also in the parking lot, in the areas between the buildings and in front of the buildings. We have a detention pond to the north side of the property that will also be landscaped. And then we'll have a perimeter fence around the entire project.
And when do you anticipate this to come online?
We're planning on having it open for 2022 fall school year. So a year from now.
Thank you. All right. Does anyone else have any questions? I don't want to take up everybody's time. Ms. Gregory, are you?
Sorry, I apologize for being late. What Mrs. Rich is talking about, she mentioned University of Alabama, and we do have an article talking about what Tuscaloosa is doing. And I know the folks at the University of South Alabama have mentioned to us that going forward, they would like to have a discussion about student housing and how the city intends to handle or work with maybe an influx of more student housing. So that is something we can certainly look at going forward. With this particular proposal, I know Mr. Griffith has talked to most of the owners or attempted to get in touch with the owners and talk with them about, or property owners, nearby property owners, about what he is trying to do. And for the most part, I believe you own all the properties anyway, and most of them you have spoken to, is that correct?
That's correct.
Um,
And we've also had a discussion with the school.
Yes, yes, you have been in, contact with folks at the University of South Alabama, and they are not going to oppose this. Given that this is R3 and there is B2 or B3, I can't remember now, next door, and of course some R1, and where it's located next to the University of South Alabama, I don't have an opposition to this. However, I do agree that we do need to begin looking at student housing and how the city will respond, maybe how much need there is, just for planning purposes going forward. But with this particular proposal, I don't oppose it. Of course, I know this is the first read anyway.
Thank you. Again, as the planning commissioner, there was adequate time because we did slow it down. It was a request of the university to work with the developer. And I do understand their position. It's just that when you have when you rezone, you have to have a need for the property. And this one, like I said, is might be the tipping point because of the area is being saturated with student housing. And as a matter of fact, some of the student housing that came on even as recent as 3 or 4 years ago is not really student housing. And you have to look at the occupancy rate in the area. And so I would recommend that this council then moving forward would pass something that would slow down the development so that it could be studied. When you have police statistics for public safety issues, if that's happening in the area, it's not, it's something the university has to report for parents to learn about the area. And so we want to make sure that this is a very viable, sustainable area that lifts everybody up at the end of the day, doesn't create any downtrend and an oversaturation. I think the Tuscaloosa is smart. They're really taking their time to study it, but it takes the planners, either someone who's consulted from out of town to look at it if our staff's too busy. but it's something this council should really concentrate on moving forward so that everyone is on the same page and everything is sustainable and positive in the future. So thank you. Thank you for giving us that information too.
Yep, and thank you for the questions. But I would like to say too, before we go into any market, we have a third-party national group that we do a full-blown feasibility study. And, COVID has affected a lot of these colleges with lease-ups and kids not knowing if they're going to be online or whether they're going to be on campus. So the last couple of, years, it has been a little off, but I'll be glad to share this feasibility study with anybody that wants to read it. But it clearly states in here that based on their survey of the market that 186 beds at a campus like University of South Alabama can certainly absorb and do well. So I just wanted to mention
I'd
that
love
as
to
well.
see the study if you'll send it.
Sure.
Do you know if the study included the information about staff's decision to require that all freshmen live on campus? Was that in the mix at the time?
It goes through on campus housing. It gets a total amount of those off campus, and then it gives a percentage of kind of the shadow market, which is houses or townhomes that are not, student housing. And then it talks about the enrollment and, the availability of how many students are out there to lease. And it states that there's a huge need for it. So whether the properties there today are not performing well, that might be a management issue. I don't know, but where we go, we look at these reports and we have a waiting list, and we built a very nice project. We don't go in and build, these big, huge 3-story facilities with, 3-4 bedroom units all over. Ours are individual standalone cottages that are either singles or duplexes. And I think what we're finding more and more now is kids want a little bit more privacy with COVID and things like that. So having like a home and a neighborhood to go to is what we're seeing as a huge draw. So.
Well, we would appreciate the study, and again, I'll still urge my colleagues to look at slowing the development in the future down somewhat, and then making sure that every project is successful in, moving forward, yours included.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this particular public hearing? If not, public hearing is closed.
Presentation of petitions and other communications to the council. Malcolm Banks.
Good morning. How y'all doing?
Good morning.
My name is Malcolm Banks. I am the 2021 Lag Best Local Podcast for my channel, Phantoms Anonymous, which Mr. Mayor was a part of earlier in February of this year. And I just recently moved back home, and I wanted to do something to give back to the community. I've partnered with Children's and Women's Hospital to do a coloring book drive. We're collecting coloring books and crayons, activity books, crossword puzzles for those parents who are in the hospital with their kids, for the kids as well, for all the other programs that the MAP Family and Child Life programs helps. I've partnered so far with over 25 businesses who have either donated or they have allowed us to put a collection box in their store where people who come in and out the stores can put coloring books and crayons in. It will be announced on September 14th and officially launched on October 1st. So I wanted to come before the city to see if you all would not mind partnering with me in this effort, whether it be putting a collection box here at the city office or any of your districts who would like to help out as well.
Sounds nice.
Mr. President,
Ms.
question.
Baker.
Appreciate you doing this. Are you looking for everything to be new in cartons and packages, or what are you looking for exactly? Coloring books and crayons?
Coloring books, crayons, Sudoku puzzle books, activity books, anything that helps those parents and those children, and all the other programs, even the classrooms that are inside of Children's and Women's Hospital as well. This stuff is very needed. They don't have a lot of it. A lot of people just bring the stuffed animals and the action figures and the puzzles, and sometimes the kids don't feel like doing it. And one of my reasons behind it was my mom, when she had cancer, we knew it wasn't a good day if she sat in her coloring book and just colored. So she passed, unfortunately, but That's one of my deeper reasons behind it.
Let me ask you, if you could, give us your name and address again.
My name is Malcolm Banks. I live at 1651 Norwood Drive, apartment 315, Mobile, Alabama 36609.
And do you have a nonprofit set up?
I currently do not, but Children's and Women's is the nonprofit that this is going to.
Wonderful. I would be happy to contribute. I think this is admirable. And I've been on the other end and have some days ahead of me.
Yes, sir.
Where activities of this nature certainly help to pass the time and to, between visiting a doctor or seeing the next nurse of things of that nature. So I appreciate what you're doing and I look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
I have one question. It's okay.
Ms. Rich?
Thank you. Mr. Ranks, do you have any kind of JPEG flyer on this initiative that we could run in our newsletters? Do you think you could create something? We could
Yes.
get the word out?
It's already been created. This current Friday was my deadline on getting businesses and everybody involved before the launch on September 14th, or the announcement on September 14th, which is actually National Coloring Book Day.
Neat. Okay. If you want to get it to our secretary or the city clerk's office, then we can get it into our newsletters to inform people how they can join in.
Absolutely.
And these are for all ages?
All ages.
All ages.
You can go anywhere from, your 2-year-olds to all the way up.
Very good, thank you.
Mr. President,
Mr. President.
just in case if someone just a business or if we want reaching out discretionary funds, I mean, who do we like write the check out to?
It would
nonprofit.
It would go to Children's and Women's Hospital, which I have the contact information for the director of the Child and Family Life Program, where she will be able to get those funds because she's the director of the entire program that gives out the toys and the action figures and whatever that goes to the kids inside the hospital.
And that information is on the flyer, correct?
Not on the flyer because I don't want to put up personal information on the flyer, but I can give that information. It's not a problem.
Yeah, I think it would probably be wise to put that on the flyer, especially if it's nothing but a business number to the hospital itself.
Okay.
For more businesses can feel more comfortable in giving to the organization.
Absolutely.
And if they have additional questions, they have someone they can contact.
Absolutely. That's no problem.
Thank you.
Great. Great initiative.
All right.
This is a great idea. Thank you for this initiative.
All right. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
You're going to give the information to the city clerk, the president of the city council to be distributed?
Yes, if there's an email where I can directly send it to, I can get that out first thing Monday morning.
Sure. You
City clerk.
City clerk at citymobile.org. Council 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It goes to all of us at citymobile.org. And we have your contact information, so we'll make sure that you get that as well.
Absolutely. If they can just send that back to me, that's not a problem. That way I can make sure I have each and every individual one.
So number one.
All right. Thank you all.
Timothy Hollis.
Morning. Timothy Hollis, 1924 Seal Street. This morning, I'd ask you all to prepare to hear some things you might not want to hear. But as the scope of my work has been in the city, most of the things I've said have not been wanted to be heard. This city needs an enema. Our municipal government has been infiltrated with fecal thinking and rule. It is a sad day when we lose sight of diplomacy and decorum. Over the last few weeks to months, we have witnessed a transition occurring before our own eyes. We have observed council members acting with irregular political posture and immature and disruptive behaviors. It vexes me that those who would assume that citizens conduct themselves with decorum would omit themselves from following the rules. If this council or any future council believes that this form of government will be tolerated amongst the citizens of Mobile, allow me to inform you, you've been sadly mistaken. No matter if November 1st is your last day or your new first day, you have an obligation and an oath to fulfill and carry out. Furthermore, to agenda item 27-722, I am inclined to believe that in regards to those remarks made about the Secretary of State The fact that several polling sites have all recorded issues from malfunctioning machines, illegal processes on the inside of centers, the blatant rejection to electioneering rules outside of voting precincts, and months of the city leader in command turning a blind eye to yard sign campaign rules. Council people teasing other council members, council people accusing other campaigning, but in turn approach the dais and political paraphernalia of candidates on the ballot that have not yet been certified. The chief political officer of this city blatantly refusing to take actions against signs posted against the law. The MPD refusing to act against those who would break laws at voting precincts in 2021, but willingly doing so in 2017. The fact that 66% of the voting machines at one of our city's largest voting precincts would malfunction at the point of tallying votes all leads me to believe that we deserve a recall on last week's results. You may not agree, you may be in disbelief, you may be in awe, but as an American citizen, these are my rights, these are my beliefs, and I will take action. Thank you.
Reggie Hill.
What does Mr. Hill intend to speak on?
27, declared 27/7/22.
Thank you, Madam Assistant City Clerk, Mr. President, members of the council, Mayor Stimson, citizens and stakeholders of Mobile. Good morning, Reggie Hill, 1007 Center Street. As stated, I rise to speak on 27/7/22. As each of you recall, last week, expressing in the same manner the sentiments that were just presented to you by Mr. Hollis, we requested that there be a recall. There was some information that was sent to the city clerk's office yesterday, as well to varying outlets to ensure that this was examined. Now, it was very surprising to me that this was offered to this body last week, and then this agenda item shows up sponsored by our mayor. So I couldn't understand why this would be here. We hadn't had any discussion about what was presented. But it made complete sense because last week we also saw we had questions and inquiries about the budget in which the administration agreed to work with the council and not the citizens. So this has already been expressed from both sides, from all places. There were total discrepancies all across the board. Each of us are aware of this. Each of us know that polling precincts in certain areas of the city were not given the same regard as other areas. We also know that certain polling precincts had no blemishes at all. We had a system that was controlled from down here was what was directing each and every one of those other centers that I believe had a major impact in the tallying of the votes. So it is only right if citizens from varying areas who have reported as well to the clerk's office that there was discrepancy, that we at least have an investigation. And to me, this is just me thinking, Reggie Hill, I can't make anybody else feel this way. But if we were doing something correct, we wouldn't be telling people to stay away. We'd be telling them, hey, come and look at us. This is how we do it correctly. This is the pilot. We would not be telling the person that they have no business in our elections when we can't get on the ballot unless we're certified to his office. This kind of stuff doesn't make any sense to me. We can't say that this is not warranted when we also hear we erased all these issues and most of the votes were counted. Most of the votes were counted. We also understand where there were some precincts, excuse me, we understand where there were certain precincts, they would send out requests, and immediately there would be a response. We had machines sitting around waiting to be used, while other citizens had to place their ballots in boxes, not to be counted, not to be known what was going on. There were people that were reporting to me before 7:25 a.m. what was happening, not knowing that this was going on in 3 other districts at the same time. So regardless if you voted for a particular individual, you agreed with the assessment, if we have all of these occurrences and instances being reported from varying places, that warrants itself alone that we at least need to go back and check the machinery. We at least need to investigate how this happened in one area opposed to another. So the best way to do that is to recall. Now, the state of Alabama, as any of our legal experts in here can tell you, gives you 14 days to appeal this. We said last week that we would give to Wednesday, that would be 7 days, tomorrow for the recall. We have 12 in the afternoon, but now we will see those legal actions taken. Thank you.
Ordinance is held over. 57-030, ordinance granting a small cell wireless facilities license to New Singular Wireless.
So moved.
Second.
Probably moved and second, any discussion? Not all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Resolution held over, and if you don't mind, I'll take them all together.
No problem.
01688, authorized foreign trade zone operator agreement with Keyport Warehousing. 01689, authorizing foreign trade zone operator agreement with Meta Warehousing and Distribution. 08690, approved purchase order to Southern Lighting and Traffic Systems for 6 traffic signal controllers for Traffic Engineering Department. 08691, approved purchase order to Peak Traffic Corporation for 3 traffic signal cabinets for the Traffic Engineering Department. 08692, approved purchase order to Petroleum Traders for fuel for the Wave Transit. 08693, approved purchase order to School Specialty for pottery wheels, stools, and kiln for the Mobile Museum of Art. 08694, approved purchase order to Emergency Equipment Professional for ambulance for fire administration. 08695, approved purchase order to Aardvark for tactical robot with accessories. 08696, approved purchase order to Caseware for 31-year licenses for case management software. 08697, approved purchase order with IT vendor for subscription for data backup recovery services. 21699, authorized contract with Barter and Associates for dock improvements at Gulf Quest. 31700, authorized grant application to the Alabama Historical Commission for digitization project. 6701, authorized settlement agreement and release of claims Johnson, and 6702, settlement agreement and release of claims Busby.
So moved.
Second.
Properly moved and second, any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Ordinance is being introduced for the first time, 64031.
By council rules, this will lay over for 1 week.
Consent resolutions being introduced for the first time, 03704 through 03723.
The motion to suspend the rules for immediate consideration for consent resolution 03-704 through 03-723.
Second.
Properly moved and second, any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
03704 and 03705, appoint Gregory Morris to the Board of Adjustment and reappoint Mary Williams to the Medical Clinic Board of the City of Mobile. 58706, declare weed noxious, weedling group 1618. 6707, determine appropriation to the Southern Skyline Community Serves a public purpose and approve payment. 6708, 709, and 710 are determining appropriations to the United Methodist Intercity Mission and the Friends of the Richards VAR House and Southridge Homeowners Association serves a public purpose and approved payment. I'm going to skip over 27722. And 03723, appoint Anna Bush to the Ad hoc Animal Shelter Citizens Advisory Commission.
So moved.
Second.
Been properly moved and second, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
CIP resolutions being introduced for the first time, 21711.
By council rules, this will lay over for 1 week.
Resolutions being introduced for the first time, 01712 through 6721.
By council rules, these will lay over for 1 week.
Can I have
Oh, yeah.
25-720? Could we pull that out?
Motion to suspend the rules for immediate consideration for resolution 25-720, and the rest will lay over for 1 week.
Second.
Probably moved in second, any discussion?
Yes, Mr. President. Well, I did not understand Ms. Rich's ask for exception. I just didn't hear. Just somebody tell me what it was.
12 Mile Creek Restore.
Yeah, it's the 12 Mile Creek Stream Restoration Project, a permanent easement.
Okay, yes.
It's 25K. And is Jen Green here if she wants to elaborate?
He's okay. He says he's
Oh,
okay.
okay.
He's okay.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
25720, approved permanent easement for use in 12 Mile Creek Stream Restoration Project.
So moved.
Second.
Probably moved in second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Announcements?
Mr. Davis.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would just like to announce that, as we have previously said, we'll have a city council finance committee meeting. It'll be at 1 o'clock this afternoon unless something delays it a little bit, but it's scheduled for 1 o'clock this afternoon, and we'll be in this room. Ms. Merchant, will we be in this room?
Yes.
Okay. It'll be in this room at 1 o'clock. This is an opportunity for the finance director to present the proposed 2022 budget and for city council members to ask any questions they may have. There will be no public comment taken. Public comment will be taken next week, September 7th, at the city council meeting. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Ms. Rich.
Thank you. I know that we are completely blessed that the storm went in another direction. I know I'll speak for myself, but you always wish it away and then you feel so guilty because you know that they're suffering. So my thoughts and prayers are with our neighbors to the west who are, you know, going to be under a lot of stress. So I hope we all join in and hope for the best for them. The other thing is I want to thank our public safety and also our public workers who were on call, ready to go. That is an astonishing activity level that really gives people comfort in our city. So I thank them. Glad that they weren't busy as the storm moving away from us. But again, on behalf of the residents of District 6, we thank them, not just today, but every day. Thanks.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Vice President.
Thank you, Mr. President. Greetings to the citizens of District 3. Still receiving a lot of phone calls. People are speaking about, blighted properties and overgrown grass, which I don't have no issue with them contacting me, but, many citizens are still really confused about the 311 or dialing 311. I'm very surprised at that. I pretty much ran into one citizen last week, and they were stating about, properties, and I asked them about had they dialed 311, still did not know about 311, and didn't even know about the SRO, Service Request Order Number. I'm going to ask the administration, if possible, maybe in the fall and then or spring, which I get most of my calls, in the spring and the summer of the year, if we can probably just send like an index card out where citizens can pretty much put it like on a refrigerator or either next to a telephone somewhere, something really colorful and attractive that they would just not think is regular junk mail, and just tell them the process of dialing 311 and also getting a SRO number. And, that the index card size poster should state reasons why you should call 311 for like city services such as, trash, litter, garbage, overgrown properties. And I think that should be a massive mail throughout the city of Mobile. Again, reminding a lot of citizens about 311. And I've also discovered too that we have some citizens just moving to the city of Mobile and they do not know about 311. So just like a refresher or reminder, that's, something we want like in the fall of the year, citywide, or in the spring of the year, citywide to remind, citizens, to dial 311 to, report city services and everything. And I think that will try to help, us out, as a city, with the citizen being out. And that's be the end of my announcements. Thank you, Mr. President.
And Mr. President, if I could just piggyback on what Councilman Small said. And I believe the current protocol when you call 311 is they take your request, but the person who answers the phone and takes the request does not give the caller the SRO. And as part of the protocol, I think that would be a good thing to add as part of the protocol. Is that when you call 311, they take your request and they give you an SRO number, because that just makes it a lot easier when either the citizen or one of the council members wants to check on the status if the citizen has been given the service request order.
It's done.
And I have a suggestion also while we're talking about this. A lot of times people will call the office and they will ask for me to talk with them about all kinds of different needs. And sometimes they have already called in a certain thing. And so I'll ask our assistants, well, what's the status on this 311? And they'll go, well, they actually can't do it. They have to get someone else to look up the status. And a lot of times it'll just say closed. I'm like, what does that mean? I have no idea if anything was done, if it's still in progress, it really doesn't specify. So then we have to start the whole process over again, put in another 311, or I call a department head and say, hey, what's going on with this? I'm still getting calls about this particular issue. So we really need, if we're going to work on the 311 system, we really need more information. When they send an inspector out, I need to know what happened with that inspection when they go out. Is it something that they have resolved? How did they do it? If not, why? When are they coming back out? That sort of thing, so that when I call the citizen back, I've got the information immediately rather than having to start over.
Go ahead, Chief.
Well, I was going to point on Councilman Dave's issue. Jeff Snowden was already taking notes, and so that's a very simple fix. I do know that we are looking at the entire 311 system of reporting and how we can be more effective in access to information like you're referring to. I don't think we're there yet, but we did get some software purchases, and we do have the strategic initiative teams looking at that process so that you'll have access to better information.
And one thing too, I don't think people understand that 311 is just the department that takes the information and sends it out to the other departments that actually do the work. I think a lot of people think that 311 actually does the work, or they send the people out. I think they're confused about the role of what 311 actually does. We're trying to explain it, but I just don't think people understand.
And you are correct, but some of the problems that we've also noted is that some of the requests come in either directly to your offices, which are then copied to a department head, or they go directly to the mayor's office, which are then sent to a department head, and they circumvent the 311 system. And so we have no record of what was done. And so we're working on those processes so that we can track the workflow and make sure we are documenting how many calls we received on any particular complaint.
I have a question, if I may, on this.
Ms. Richard?
When a citizen or our offices get, it's closed, is that closed meant that 311 took it as far, in other words, got it in the right place to get resolved? And so they close it out knowing that they don't have to, keep looking at the same requests. So when it's closed, is that pretty much what the information is? It doesn't necessarily mean resolved, correct? They just have passed it through the proper official.
Right. Yeah, it's not closed, so,
But that's the way the resident reads it.
That's the way they interpret it, but that's not.
Right.
Accurate.
Yeah, that's probably needs like an asterisk next to it.
Right, we can probably put that out when we do our campaign.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that the staff at 311 wants to finish and do exactly what they're instructed to do to get it to the right department. So they close it out. So but that's not what the citizen thinks it was either ignored or didn't get attention.
And that's not, just to be clear, that's not, 311's not doing it to keep some metric up or close it so that they got it closed.
Oftentimes, it's transferred to another action. They may have called in, and it might be multiple actions with one thing. They may close that one, but it opened up 2 or 3 others. And the linkage there, the current system doesn't have a good way to reflect that to the individuals.
That's the
And
aspect.
we would also prefer that they can see that directly, not have to go through your office for you to relay that information to them. That's what the new system we're looking at that can do that, so that they can see that. But right now, if they call on one thing and it has 3 or 4, or it goes to another entity like Moz or someone else, it will say closed, but it has been then reopened or transferred to them. And we've tried to do some workarounds to be able to show that it's not as clean as it needs to be with the system that we have.
Okay.
Well, I think Councilwoman Gregory's point is well taken. It would be very helpful to us if there could be an explanation of why it was closed. What action occurred to cause it to be closed so that we can pass that on. Right? But what would really be great is what you're talking about, Director DeLapp, if the resident could go into the system and check on the state.
Because right now, even our assistants can't get the information. They have to then turn around and call someone else to try to bring up whatever the original call was and what the status is. So it's really just been a vicious, cycle for all of us. And, people call us generally after they've already called 311 and they don't get the results that they were looking for. Maybe nothing has happened, whatever the situation is. Then they call us. And then I have to get back into the system to see what's there and what's not there, to try to figure it out and go to the department head or go to Director Barber and say, can you help me out with this? They've been calling, nothing's been done, So we all need some help, and I think we all understand that you're working on the system so that we can make it better, to get all the issues resolved, and so that we can keep up with what the status is.
And Mr. President, we're in total agreement, the administration is, and so the executive directors have met on this exact issue several times, and so again, we're in that process to bring you more robust information that you'll have access to as well as the citizens, but we do recognize the problem.
Thank you.
Mr. President,
Mr. Vice President.
2 statements on what really a question. My question was the new system, the new program that the city had purchased for 311. Will allow the operator of 311 to look at a particular area, let's just say the corner of, Roosevelt and Garbage, and it's a blighted piece of property that's overgrown. Many residents have challenges explaining the area or the address to the operator, especially if no address is not around, or either the certain issue that the resident or citizen is complaining about, they really cannot explain it, and the operator is not interpreting it at the same time. So would this allow a map to be shown to the operator for them to focus on exactly what the citizen is talking about or speaking of? If you cannot answer that now, that's fine.
The bottom line is yes. We'll have a map interface. I mean, they can't see real time. They can only look at a static map image or satellite image, but that's not real time. That could be 6 months or 6 years old. But they know the location, so they'll go, and they do deconflict. Sometimes we get multiple SROs called in for one corner, and it's the same thing. So the operators try and deconflict that, so we don't have 6 work orders at one corner for 6 different residents calling in for that one issue. They can do that when they put it in there. They can deconflict, and they're pretty good at interpreting that. But there's still, a human factor involved in that in terms of their ability to assess those.
Okay, that's great. And one other thing too, I'd like to ask a question: how often does the operators really get trained? Because times that I have called 311, for instance, about tires, the residents are being told one different thing, and then I end up calling the department head or you alternative out and get a different story, then end up calling the 311 situation back and tell them, it is, like that, and it'd be like complete stories, it's not on the same page. So my question is, how often do they actually get trained? Like once a year, with city services such as tires,
Well, that's something I can address with the director. I know that they do have monthly meetings where they discuss ongoing issues or ongoing
ways of improving service. So I'll bring that up at their next meeting, that some of the issues that you brought up today, we can discuss it and see if there's more training needed.
Who is your director?
Right now, we have interim director, Cindy Week, as the Metro has passed away, so she's filling that role, and we're actively looking for a replacement.
So, I mean, you said they have monthly meetings, but how often is the training process? Is it 6 months, 12 months, or one time? Or?
Well, we don't have an ongoing training schedule, like I said, it's a monthly discussion of ongoing issues. They are initially trained when they come on in, on-the-job training with the more experienced employees. So if there's a deficit, then we'll work on that and we'll address that with training.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. President. According to the Zombie Act, it is a removable offense for council members to interfere in administrative matters. And all of what we've been talking about is administrative matters. We don't have no employees. We don't have no equipment. We can't pick up no trash. We can't move it. Yet we're taking calls pertaining to blight, all manner of blight. Until council close that down, close that chapter down. We shouldn't take any calls. They don't call us saying nobody was robbed. They know to call the police. Until the mayor announced that I'm in charge of blight. I'm in charge of 311. If you don't get the proper response from 311, you call me. I wrote the bad asked him, who could the citizens appeal to if 311 failed? I got no answer. Because you know who they're appealing to? They're appealing to us. These are calls when 311 failed. So they call us because they think we are in charge of 311. Why shouldn't they think that when no one has told them anything any different? They believe we in charge of 311. So in my office, I am to inform my secretary. If we get a 311 call, forward it on to the mayor's office. I'm not taking no 311 calls. I'm not in charge of no 311. That's not a council matter. And as long as we keep on conducting administrative business, they're going to keep on calling us. When we stop, they'll stop too. That's we got to take. We got to quit riding that horse and get off that horse. And the horse keep running. It's our fault to keep on want to go in the system and look and see the status of the complaint. So when you find the status, what we're going to do about it? There's nothing we can do. It is an administrative matter. We need to get out of administrative matters and take care of council matters. I venture to say 80% of my calls in my office have to do with administration or have to do with administration. I fought them on. I don't try to resolve administrative matters. I fought them on. All through the night, I fought them on because I can't take care of administrative matters. I'm not trying to look into 311. I don't need to know nothing about the 311 computer. I'm not looking at it. It's not my business. We need to get out of it. We need to give up on administrative matters, trying to solve it. Forward it on. When you start sending those matters where they're supposed to go, they're going to do something about it. As long as you keep solving them, nobody's going to do nothing. Because you keep solving. If you want somebody to do something, then you send it on the way it's supposed to go, and they pick up what it's supposed to do. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes, sir, Ms. Rich.
Well, thank you.
You said you didn't have any comment.
He didn't have any announcement. Mr. Davis, you've had enough. Ms. Ms. Rich.
I'm done.
done?
I spoke.
Mr. Richardson.
Yes, sir, Mr. President, thank you. I would like to announce that the Department of Archives and History opened a major exhibit in Montgomery, Alabama, on August the 26th, on the 101-year anniversary of the 19th Amendment, the date the United States Constitution was adopted, granting women the right to vote. And in honoring the 101 anniversary, the Alabama Parliament Archives and History selected 3 women to highlight in their exhibit from Mobile, Alabama. They selected Senator Vivian Davis Vickers. This is on display now in Montgomery, Alabama, and I'm going to see it too. They selected former state senator Ann Betso, and they selected state representative Adeline Clark. They are on display, on exhibit at the Archives and History. So I congratulate these 3 women for achieving this honorable distinction. And before this exhibit is closed out, I plan to go and visit. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Ms. Weber?
Thank you. I need to schedule an administrative services committee meeting, and I believe that's Bess and Fred on the administrative services committee. So we need to schedule that if y'all will look at your calendar.
And what's the topic?
I think it's just you and Fred and me.
Yeah, but what's the topic?
The proposal, the library, I think that was Fred's proposal, correct?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What about the Airbnbs? What are we doing
We're
with that?
still waiting on UDC to pass, remember?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You're tying into that.
Yeah,
Okay.
tying the only other thing I have is also thanking our public safety and public works first responders for all of their work during the storm. And I know in my district, there were some trees that fell. Primarily from what I'm hearing from Peter Toller is that the trees were on private property that fell into the street. So they have removed those trees from the street. But of course, if the tree is in your private property, then you're responsible for doing the rest of the work, just in case anybody was wondering. And I think that was all I had. This would be like for Cassandra and I guess for Candace and some of the other folks. If you all hear of any food, clothing drives, anything like that, trucks going to Louisiana, Mississippi, that sort of thing, if you just spread the word so that we can also be involved, that would be great. Appreciate that. Cassandra's got her thumbs up. Good. It's like Candace over there. Good. Thanks.
One. Any announcements from the administration? If not, do I hear a
Mr.
motion?
President, y'all
Yes,
need
sir.
to recess till noon.
I move we recess until noon.
Certainly. Properly moved and second, we will recess till noon. Any discussion? Not all in favor? Opposed? We will be back at 12 noon. Yes, sir.
Mark, Lana, could you get someone to bring LeVon's lunch down too?
If I can see the information.
Courtney should have access to it, but anyone should be able to see it. It should be a transparent thing. That's what we're doing on our CIP projects as well. Everyone's going to be able to see, every citizen can be able to log in and see. Right, we're going to be able to look and see the status of every project in the city, period. Yeah, they do that. The problem is it's not, the current system doesn't do a good